everybody, welcome to the Comic Gaming Movie Show. My name's Deshaun. Sorry for the noise, planes going overhead. You know how it would be when you record, if you're recording, and crap's just going on around your place. But I am here to give you my review of The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 3, The Heiress. I think it's The Heiress. I think it's called The Heiress. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my name, but I think it's called The Heiress. And this episode picks up immediately after episode 2. Kind of like how episode 1 picked up immediately after episode, kind of like how episode 2 picked up after episode 1. I'm getting a vibe that this is going to be how they're going to be doing things from here on out, is that Jon Favreau said something along the lines that these will be a little bit more connected than previous seasons. And now I'm thinking, and at first I thought he meant that they were going to just make it more serialized, as in, it's like, the story's just constantly, it's just narrative. You know what I mean? I thought that's what he meant, like any other, like the HBO kind of shows. But no, what he meant was that they were going to happen, that the show would still have its contained, or sometimes individual episodes. Like, there is a goal in the episodes. Like, each episode has a beginning, middle, and end. Like, there's a goal. Each episode start off, there's a goal, there's an idea, there's a task, you get it done, and then it ends, and then he moves on to something else. But it's all connected. It's almost like each episode is a sequel to a movie. It's like each episode is a small contained movie, and there's in each episode after is just sequels to that movie, and they're connected. What noise? Say something vibrating. I just heard like you guys probably heard that too, but I think it's my neighbor. But anywho, each episode is just a sequel. Like that's the vibe I'm getting from it, since like I said, these 3 episodes have all been right after the other. It wasn't like that in season 1. In season 1, he found the kid, and the next episode happened immediately after. But then he took off in the next. But then there's just time between. Now it's time in the middle, and then they're getting a location. But this season, it's like all 3 episodes are just like bam, what happens next, bam, what happens next, bam. It's just like boom, 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 and they each have their own individual vibes and stuff. But this episode definitely feels like this episode has It felt like the best of Clone Wars is the best I could describe of it. While episode 1 felt like a western, felt like a space western, episode 2 felt like something that was akin to Aliens, like it was definitely a shout out to Aliens and movies and stuff of that genre, especially with the weird face hugger looking creatures. This episode just felt like something out of, it felt like Clone Wars. It felt like something out of a Clone Wars. It felt like a side episode of because Clone Wars had a bit more edge to it than Rebels did, and this has more edge to it. But like I said, it felt like something out of Clone Wars. Like the vibe of it, you go to a new vibe of it, so just to give you a good, overarching about what happened in the 3rd episode, Mando, he's got the little frog lady with him, and Baby Yoda, and if you've seen episode 2, you know that the ship got really badly damaged to the point where basically all he could do is take off with it, but like landing is not going to be easy. And I saw some people think like, oh, the ship's fucked up. Actually, when you saw the ship land, if you notice, like the engines are just those big tubes on the side. As long as the engine's okay and there's a room to seal off, he can fly that thing. Problem is, like, the landing gear and everything was fucked up and they were leaking oil. So basically what he was doing was just plugging the leak. Like, some people are wondering, what is he doing over there? He's gonna fix this? No, all he did was plug the leaks. So all he could do was just plug it to stop more, fuel from being lost. But he can't land this damn thing, and not only is his landing stuff fucked up, but he can't really land this he couldn't land this thing if he wanted to. and he's got wanted to. So of course the episode starts off. It's a shot that you saw in the trailer. Episode starts off, and they finally make it to the planet, but now they have to crash land, and it's a very exciting scene with them coming back into orbit and the fire coming around it, and him and Frog Lady trying to slow this ship down so it doesn't crash, and they almost pull it off, and then it lands and falls in the water. But so the ship's just getting a beating, man. The Razor Crest is getting the shit kicked out of it this season. I mean, that ship's getting beat up like it's in a freaking UFC fight, man. That ship has been through the ringer. It doesn't get much better. Literally, the guy just patches it up. Spoiler alert for the end. Freaking, he hires some guy like for 1,000 credits. All he does is put a band-aid on it, basically. It's not even a good, the ship looks worse than when it landed. It's okay. It's flyable. That's all he made it was like, well, you can fly, but the best you're gonna get out of me, it flies. But anywho, so Mando gets to the planet. Frog Lady's reunited with her husband. It's a very touching scene. And her husband, tells him about the Mandalorians that he's seen. Now, her husband was lying. He did see Mandalorians. Of course, some other people, because this is a shady dock, this whole area is shady. All Mando goes to shady locations. Of course, someone tries to play Mando, tells him, I know where they are. Meanwhile, the dude's just, this, tentacle face back thing, guys, just lying to Mando to get the Beskar armor, because pretty much everybody wants Beskar armor, which, honestly, when you see the way that Beskar, especially Mando's Beskar, is in use, you kind of understand why. But of course, dude betrays him, has a scary scene where he smacks Baby Yoda in the mouth of a beast, and it's just like, oh shit! Well, not in the mouth, Baby Yoda's in that pod, but he smacks the pod that Baby Yoda's in the mouth of the beast, and you're like, oh shit! And Mando dives in to go save him. And Mando's in a bad spot. He's drowning. He's trying to get up and get air. He's in a bad way. He's getting spoked. And then the Mandos show up. 3 Mandalorians show up to save the day. And one of them, if you are a fan of the Clone Wars and Rebels, you would recognize as Bo-Katan, a.k.a. the true heir to the throne of Mandalore. Played by Katie Sackhoff, who also voiced her in the animated series. So that's pretty funny, you kind of had to do it, right? Because Katie Sackhoff has a reputation because of I think it's Battlestar Galactica. Because of Battlestar Galactica, I also loved her in Longmire, so I have that relationship with her. Seeing her in that show. So Katie Sackhoff is awesome. She's a beautiful woman. She's an action-packed girl. I even liked her in that Riddick movie. Katie Sackhoff is the shit. And getting her to come back and play Bo-Katan, a live-action Bo-Katan, and really look like Bo-Katan, she looked like the anime. You're like, yeah, that's what I imagined she would look like. The helmet and everything. It was very unique seeing that kind of Mandalorian armor as opposed to Mando's Mandalorian armor. It almost looked like they were completely from two different, it's like they are both Mandalorian, but the armor just looks so different because, their armor was, a little bit more, Mando's armor just looks, old school. It almost looks, archaic, or, not archaic, it just doesn't look, it looks like something, it looks kind of plain next to theirs. Theirs have all these symbols on it. It's a little bit more of a stir. Their helmets and stuff are a little bit more sleek, and the armor and stuff a little bit more sleek. Mando's armor just looks heavier. Mando's armor looks thicker and heavier, and just it's just made out of someone really was and someone didn't have time to do anything sleek and design, and they're just yeah, make a helmet out of this, and that was it. There's something very rustic about Mando's armor next to their armors, and when you notice it when you see it. And the fact that they just take their helmets off completely throws Mando off. Now, this is something that a lot of people were arguing about. Because, as you know, if you've watched Rebels or Clone Wars, you know that Mandalorians take their helmets off. They take their helmets off all the time throughout that show. Throughout both shows, they just take their helmet off, It's just, it's not that big of a deal. It's just, being a Mandalorian, like I said, it's not that big of a deal. But it turns out, but they actually answer that question because everyone was wondering, well, why does Mando, what's with Mando and his whole, this is the Mandalorian creed? Because we know that not to be true because we've seen Mandalorians take their helmet off. So it was kind of a conflicting thing. It was like, well, what the hell's going on here? They answered that question. There's a lot of answers. Well, there's not there's not a ton of answers so far in the season, but this question is answered. Turns out Mando's sect, the people who raised Mando, because he was raised by Death Watch, as we know from the symbols, that they were extremists. Not extremists in a negative way, so to speak. They were apparently they are sort of like almost disillusioned Mandalorians. Like they left the like they like pretty much like got the hell out of off Mandalore, to survive, and they have been extremists who just keep their helmets on, because literally the moment Mando says, "Wait, you take your helmet off? You take your helmet off? You're not a Mandalorian." Like one of the other guys was like, "Oh, he's one of those. He's one of those, man. He's one of those. He's one of them, and he's one of those ones." Which is kind of a fascinating thing, that there is interpolitics between the Mandalorians. Like apparently he's never really met any other Mandalorians outside of his sect, so this is news to him. This is news to him to hear all about this. And apparently, he was told that Mandalore was just destroyed, was just fucked. And Bo-Katan's here telling him, no, actually, Mandalore isn't destroyed. In fact, we're here right now, so we're trying to steal weapons and ships and shit to prepare for the coming battles ahead. Which tells me that this thing, which is kind of a fun beat, because if you think about it, Mandalore's not really mentioned in the original trilogy. So it's not really mentioned, and the events of what happened to Mandalore aren't mentioned in the sequel trilogy, because we gotta remember, this takes place 25, 27 years before the sequel trilogy. So whatever happens with Mandalore has to be really, really low key. Like, it has to be really low key. So like, whatever happens with Mandalore is kind of up for creative interpretation, because it wasn't touched in either the original 3 movies or the sequel trilogy. So whatever happens to Mandalore, you can just kind of do what you want with that. So it kind of gives them a freedom. Like, so it seems like Mando is going to be seeing a lot more Mandalorians and a lot more different people. And he might have been, like I said, he might have been lied to. Well, maybe not lied to, but like he was raised up differently than these Mandalorians. And like just seeing that contrast, even the way they fight is different. When they fight together, like they fight as a unit, in a tactical, as a tactical unit. And Mando is still kind of an outlaw, he's still, like he's a little loose, and he's kind of, he's just kind of an outlaw with it, while they're just kind of tactical with it. Like it's kind of like, even that is a very contrast. Like it's so fun to see that, the difference between them. And, and like, it's just, they're just raised, like, it's so interesting to see how different they are from him. And it's not, it's something that never occurred to me. I've watched Rebels, which is why this episode gave me really good vibes. First of all, I love Katie Sackhoff, just saw her on Longmire, love her from that, so I'm already hooked on her from that. And then I loved her as Bo-Katan, and I loved Clone Wars and Rebels, so I'm like, okay. But the thing that makes it so unique is it's like I never realized how different Mando was from all those Mandalorians until they were in a scene together, and I realized, holy shit, he is way different than them. He is very much different than them, man. Like the way they look at him too, it's like, yeah, he's fucked up. Like the way they kind of approach him. It's a very fun episode. But anywho, the episode really is about him trying to get them to tell him where Jedi are. And by the end of the episode, they say, hey, and Bo-Katan goes, hey, if you help us take the weapons off, get some weapons off of this, Imperial ship, I'll tell you where Jedi is, where you can take the baby. And of course, he's like, all right, all right, fine, I'll make a deal with you. You saved my life, you saved the baby's life, you know what, I'll deal with you. They go get on the ship, awesome action sequence on the ship, really cool stuff. They take out all these guards. Mando has his badass moment where he's just running through the shots and taking the shots with his Beskar, which tells me his Beskar is probably a lot thicker than their Beskar, because they weren't ready to do some shit like that, but he was. And then he took out some people, and we saw our first glimpse of Moff Gideon, doing some hardcore shit. Like at one point where they're trying to take this ship, she changes the deal on Mando. Mando thinks they're just going for the guns, and then she's like, we're trying to take the ship, actually. And he's like, what the hell, man? And she's just like, well, now this is the way. And and like I said, when she said, like, she is the heir to the Mandalorian, to the throne of Mandalore. So in a weird way, she is technically Mandalore is Din Djarin's top, Like, it's curious. I'm curious to see what the hell how this show's gonna go now, man. But anywho, they finally get to the cockpit, and the guy who's the captain of this ship is like literally gets a message from Moff Gideon, and he's like, "We need help, Moff. We need help." And Moff's like, "How far have they gotten on the ship?" And he's like, "Well, they're pretty much almost at the door, to the cockpit now." And he's just like, "It's too late. You know what to do." And it's just like they're about to crash the ship. Like, that's an order to do, is just to crash the ship. That was pretty hardcore. He took out the two drivers, like the captain took out the two drivers and was about to crash the ship on Moff Gideon's orders. That is some hardcore shit. It makes me curious, did he just give that order to all the captains of all his ships that if you are going to get captured, crash that motherfucking ship into the water, die. You have to die rather than let them take something like this. And then like they stopped him from crashing it, but then he ate something that's equivalent to a cyanide pill, except instead of fucking foaming at the mouth, he started like shocking and died. And I was like, holy shit. That was hard. That was dark. That was dark. But anyways, she ended up giving him a name, Ahsoka Tano, which if you're a Rebels fan and whatnot, you know who Ahsoka Tano is. She told him to go meet Ahsoka Tano at this place. Tell her that Bo-Katan sent you, and hopefully we'll see you one day. And she tried to talk Mando into coming with her, but he refused to go. Another little tidbit is she is looking for the Darksaber. She's looking for the Darksaber. She knows goddamn Giancarlo's character, Moff Gideon, has it. She's looking for Moff Gideon. So now we have this interesting thing where Moff Gideon has beef with Mando. Mando has Bo-Katan has beef with Moff Gideon, which tells me that you're gonna see these characters again. You're gonna see Katie Sackhoff and Bo-Katan again because they have beef with one another, and she's gonna want to get that blade. Like, I'm so curious of what's gonna happen. This episode was fantastic, man. I had ball with this episode. I'm gonna go watch it again right after I'm done doing this. I'll give this episode a 9 out of 10. It was fantastic. I had a fun ride with it. Seeing Bo-Katan on screen in live action was great. Katie Sackhoff is great. The action was great. CGI is always good. There's some heartwarming moments. I think Baby Yoda maybe even learned a lesson about life because he saw the eggs hatch. Those eggs that you were eating, he saw them hatch, and he didn't seem like he wanted to eat it. Like he was petting it and was concerned about it. So maybe Baby Yoda actually learned a lesson about life. So, there's a lot of good things. There's too many good things in this episode not to give it a 9. It was so fun. It really was. It was better than... It might be the best episode of the season, man. Might be the best episode of the season. I know there's 3 of them, but this is clearly either 1 or 2. I think it might be 1. Thank you guys for joining the Comic Game Movie Show. Please be like, subscribe. And what did you think of The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 3, The Heiress? I thought it was a blast. Comment below. Let me know. I'll see you guys in the next one.